Hi, welcome to another episode of I Can Alteryx That with coaches Alex and John. I'm John. Today, we're going to cover Alteryx Weekly Challenge number 224, Mushroom for Improvement. Let's get started. So the goal of this week's challenge is pretty straightforward. We've been given two data sets. This first one right here contains 8,124 records of mushroom data, where we have 23 fields of encoded information. For example, in the class column, looks like we have P's and E's. In the cap shape column, we've got X's, B's, and S, F. And we don't really know what any of these letters actually mean, though. And then we have our attribute info lookup table, which is formatted strangely. But in here we can see that we have classes. Edible equals E, poisonous equals P. Cap shape, bell equals B, conical equals C, convex equals X, flat equals F, knobbed equals K, and sunken equals S, and so on. And I can see that here, it looks like, so we have classes, colon, cap shape, colon, cap surface, colon, and looking back at the original data set, those correspond to our column headers up here. So it looks like what we want to do is, it looks like we're going to use a bunch of text to column and or regex to split this out. We will pivot that data, we'll definitely pivot this data. We'll join the two together, cross tab, and then we should get our final answer, which is with all of the values actually spelled out. So instead of X's, B's, F's, all that stuff, we see the actual words. So let's get started down that path. So I'm going to focus on our attribute info. I think that'll be the most difficult part, so let's start there. So what I think we should do is let's use text to columns, and let's use the colon as a delimiter. Let's go back to the original data again. Yeah, let's use the colon as a delimiter, and we'll do it into two different columns. One would be the column header, the other would be the attributes themselves. Let's go ahead and run this and see what we get. Okay, that's good except for one thing. If you notice in this first column, we have this attribute information colon. And that's kind of messing up our first row up here. So I think what would be the easiest, and there's probably some way we could deal with it later, but I think I see an easier solution, and why not just keep it simple? Let's just simply do a replace. Field 1, and we're going to replace the term attribute information colon with nothing. And just like that, you can see that now we have classes as in here in column 1 in our quote-unquote column header column, and column 2 just has the attributes. One more thing I noticed, we have those parentheses. So the easiest way to get rid of that, let's just go back to our formula, and let's do a regex replace this time. Of course, we could do nested replaces, that's not a problem, but let's use regex replace. So in here, in regular expressions, whatever you put inside of square brackets, it's just going to look for those actual characters. So you can see here, if I put our two, an open parenthesis and a closed parenthesis inside of square brackets, and then say replace them with nothing, you can see now in the data preview that that first record no longer has any of those parentheses. And you can see just like that, we now have all of our column headers in this field named 1, and our attributes in 2. So the next thing that I'm going to do is let's split this by the comma. Thing is, we don't know how many values are going to be in any one color, or record, I mean. Because here, Gil color has quite a few, whereas Gil size only has 2. So for this one, we're going to split field 2 according to commas, but we have to split it to rows since we don't know. It's a dynamic number. So you can see here now in column 1 we have our column headers again. In 2 we have our values. In one value, or one attribute I should say, per record. And finally, let's go ahead and use one more text to columns and split according to these equal signs. That way we have the encoded letter and what the letter actually represents side by side. So again, we'll split column 2. This time our delimiter is an equal sign, and we want to split to 2 columns. And just like that, you can see that we've now split all of this information so that each attribute for each header has its own record. And finally, I see there's a lot of spaces, trailing spaces and stuff. Let's just get rid of that. Not exactly sure if it's going to make a difference, but it can't hurt. So we'll get rid of leading and trailing white space. And that should make all of our columns look nice and pretty. Okay, so that looks good. I'm happy with that. So now let's go back up to here, and let's reshape this data so that we can easily join it in with the attribute data that we just played with. I notice there's no unique identifier for any of these, or in this data set, so let's just go ahead and throw a record ID on there. And then we will use the transpose tool, grouping by the record ID column that we just created, and let's see what that gives us. Make sure that we didn't do anything incorrectly here. Looks good. So you can see now we have record ID 1 for those 23 columns. That's good that it matches the number of columns that we had over here, with the names, like the header, and then the encoded value. One thing that I'm noticing, however, you see here we have our name as class, and over here it's called classes. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab a formula tool. And let's just say, what column was that? That was 1. And we'll just do replace column 1. If it says classes, call it class. Oh, that should be lowercase, I think. Yeah, there we go. All right. So now I think we can go ahead and join these two data sets. So grab a join tool. Our data will be left, the attributes will be on the right. So let's join. So we want to join the name column here to the 1 column on the right. So name on the left, 1 on the right. And then we also want to join value on the left. So the encoded value is value, and the encoded value on the right is the column 2, 2. And it gets kind of confusing that I was too lazy to rename everything, but hopefully this will all be okay. So let's run this. All right, well, we have the same number of records, 186, 852, so that's good. So you can see here we now have our record ID. We have our name column, which is 1 in this case. Although we could also use the actual name column. They are the same, since after all, we did join them together. And then, but instead of using the 2, 2 column or the value column, we will now use the 2, 1 column, which actually has the name, the written out value that we're interested in. So let's go ahead and grab a crosstab tool. We will group by record ID. Our column headers, again, will be either name or 1. It doesn't matter. I'll just grab name. And our values for the new columns, like I said, will be the 2, 1 column here. It's a string. It shouldn't matter what we choose here, so I'll just grab first. All right, and look at that. We're back down to 8,124 records, which matches our original size of the data. So I think the last thing that we need to do, well, let's go ahead and remove our record ID field because we don't need that. And so at this point we should have the correct answer, although you'll notice if I bounce between one result and the output solution, that they don't look quite the same because the fields are in a different order. And there's probably some other way that we could have done this workflow so that the fields would remain in the same order. Could probably be a little more sophisticated in doing that, but really, I'm interested in getting the easiest solution I can. So I'm just going to, I think, manually move all these columns around. So we've got class, cap shape, cap surface, cap color. This shouldn't take too long, honestly. Cap shape, surface, color. Then we've got bruises and odor. Okay, we got bruises already. So we'll bring up odor. Gill attachment, gill spacing, size, and color. Attachment, spacing, size, then color. Then we move on to stalk shape, root, surface above, surface below. So stalk shape is next. Stalk root, surface above, surface below. Then we go on to color above, color below, veil type, veil color. Okay, we're almost done. Then ring number, ring type, print color, population habitat. So we've got ring number, ring type, spore print color, population, and finally habitat. So when you run this, and there we go. It looks like everything is matching perfectly between the two data sets. So there you have it. There's my solution to Alteryx Weekly Challenge number 224. Thanks for watching. As always, thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the Data Coach channel for more awesome lessons on Alteryx and all things data analytics and visualization. Follow Data Coach on Twitter at AskTessellation and follow me personally at jemery_dataviz. Thanks again.